So today we're going to cover a product that I guarantee nobody in our subscriber base has ever considered. I know I had not considered, Lorenzo had not considered, and we are using this because we want to show you that conversion optimization ideas can be applied to any kind of product. It doesn't matter what you're selling. I think I'm quite excited about what we're going to share with you. I saw Lorenzo's ideas for the first time today, and he saw my ideas for the first time. A lot of similarities. Also, there's a very interesting bonus Amazon idea, which Lorenzo will share to people that subscribe to our list. So watch the episode and leave us a comment. Ciao.
Oh. Well, good morning, guys. Another episode where Rish and I analyze a direct-to-consumer brand, and we give a bunch of ideas on how they can do better in terms of conversion rate optimization. Today, we picked a brand, a brand called Waveform.
And it was selected by one of our YouTube followers. And so now we don't do this all the time, but this was a unique request because it's a highly technical and complicated product. And we thought, oh, you know what? Let's see if the approach that we take would work here. So that's why we picked it.
Yeah, and one thing that people need to know is that I get excited about very good food, very good spaghetti, very good pizza, while Rishi gets excited about technical products. So, this is for you today, Rishi.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about this product, which is a phone network booster. The product is called Cel-Fi
Go X.
Cel-Fi Go X, yeah. So there, we're going through the product page just because we think it's where most of the traffic it comes from. So I'm gonna quickly walk you guys through the page. We have this main image, a lot of different things happening in this image. A lot of different things are showing, and then they have the image gallery just below that. Very simple type of image gallery. Then they have the product configurator where they can choose the different type of antenna, how many antennas they want, and so on. We have a sort of like benefit area with kind of like 4 different points where people can click on it and get more details. They have this very interesting section dedicated to Amazon. And when people click on both reviews and the Amazon, I'm actually going to show this really quick. They go straight to the Amazon page. This section is what my bonus idea is for, which is available for all the people that actually sign up to our upgraded content. So if you want to learn more about
if you want to become a better marketer, sign up.
Exactly. If you want to become a better marketer, and I have a strong idea around this, just sign up to this. I have the link in the comments. Then they have, again, kind of like some bullet points in regards to some benefits of the product. And then they have this very interesting tab approach that display, basically, they're doing this for content discovery. Because they have the page is very long, which makes sense. It's more than $1,000 product. So they have broken down the page into each sections. And when clicking on it, the user gets scroll down. So they have this in class of its own, kind of like image that shows how more dB the product gets versus competitor. They have another kind of like section dedicated to other like 4 benefits, I would say. Then they have the section dedicated to like where to use the product for, in which context, like for home, offices, hospitals, and so on. This add to cart section, I thought it was kind of like odd. Like I've never seen a random add to cart button in the middle of nowhere. And then again, they have this other section that goes into details around how the product was made, like what kind of technology is behind the product. Another one around like how it works exactly, kind of like step by step of how the product works. Because again, it's quite a complicated product. The average Joe wouldn't really understand a lot of technicality and technology behind it. Then they have this, again, very, very long page They have this configurator where they can, pick and choose the right type of antenna and how many antennas they need based on where they live and so on. And then again, it goes more down. Here we have a video. Actually, have you watched this video? Yeah, so there's this video of it's kind of like post-purchase experience where the founder maybe goes through like the product, how it works, and it goes into details about each feature of the product. They have an installation guide, which is actually something that a lot of people are asking for, like how to install this product, which makes sense, right? Again, this is not an easy product. Then they have like a product specification section. This is kind of like the other products that they sell, which it's kind of like the classic grill, this, you're seeing this a lot on Amazon. And then FAQ section, I can go over and over. And then finally the reviews, which I believe is pretty much the last section.
Yep.
Oh, now they have also, again, super long page. They have the satisfaction guarantee and more benefits. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna go straight into. Did I miss anything else, Rishi?
No, I think you covered it all.
All right, so let's go through some of the ideas I have. So unfortunately this week I didn't do reviews mining. It's been crazy for me. So I skimmed through actually some Amazon questions because they had like over 200 questions on the Amazon product page, which I thought it was interesting. I skimmed quickly through them and I basically kind of like broke down the questions, the most popular questions, into 3 different groups. One is will it work where I live, right? Or wherever I am, wherever I need the product, right? Especially if they're actually in a location in the middle of nowhere. I've seen a lot of people using this product for, I watched some videos of people using this product on like when they're traveling somewhere, right? Maybe in like a super hidden location. Then the other one was, does it boost signal for any carrier? Which I thought it was interesting because it depends on the type of carrier you have. And then how far does the product work, right? Again, if I use the product, if I'm maybe living in a big house or something, how far does the product go? So in general, my old thought around this topic is that there's a lot of anxiety around the product working for their own use case. And what I mean by that is that maybe you can claim, people could recommend, let's say on Reddit, that the product works well. There could be a lot of very good reviews about the product. But the reality is that this is kind of like a location based type of product, which means that it might have worked for their own location, but maybe it won't work for your own location, right? Because maybe you live in a specific type of a location. And the reality is that maybe there's not like a simple way, or maybe there is, we can discuss about it, but there's not a huge, like a very simple way for somebody to say, okay, for sure it will work wherever I live, right? Or wherever I am. So the idea I had around this is to basically lower the anxieties about, oh, will this product work for my own use case? What I had in mind was to basically show like a Google Maps on the product page where you see all kind of like arrows and dots of all the customers that have bought the product and how like in the middle of nowhere they live or they've traveled, as a way to communicate that, hey, even if you think that you live in a very isolated location, look at all the other people all over the US. I think like they only sell in the US, but I'm not sure. So maybe in the middle of the desert of Arizona, or like in a super isolated location in the middle of the forest. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But the point is to communicate that if there's a lot of other people that have bought the product and they live in isolation, it's a way to kind of like lower anxiety.
Yeah, and I can just to add on to that. I mean, I obviously haven't seen your ideas, and we're looking at this for the first time. And um, one, just to riff on what you said, another approach, I would think there's a marketing hook here, which is that the people that are looking for at this Google Map interface are people that have anxiety. And that's actually my most valuable customer. So I would actually run a campaign with the CEO. I would obviously run this by the management, but the campaign would be like at a pretty prominent location on the page. I would say, I plan to use this device in this zip code, and then there's a little text box. And the campaign is that you put the it's a trick, because no matter what zip code you put, our response is going to be, we are 100% certain it's going to work in the zip code. And if it does not work in the zip code, not only will we get a full refund, we'll give you another $15 on top of it because it didn't work. So it's a little. My point is that I think it's an interesting experiment to run, because I think that for people that have that anxiety, my personal view is that the best solution is to install it and try it out. Instead of instead of like looking at a map and saying, well, how many people in my area have it, or in a certain area have it, I say just try it. And I think the business should incentivize them, not everybody, but people who are actually putting in their zip code, because clearly they have a very specific anxiety, and kick in another $15 if it doesn't work for them. It's a great hook for the buyer, because they get to use the product, and then you can change the campaign if you get a lot of people that are asking for that, are returning it.
Yeah, that's interesting. The other thought I had is that, everybody always says, oh, but I'm different. My situation is different, right? So to me, this is like an example that shows off how there's a lot of different situations.
Yeah, true.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the second one, which is not an idea per se. It's more like a process, I would say, something that I would do. So one thing that I noticed around the entire product page is that there's a lot of technical jargons, like a lot of terms that I'm like, I'm not sure I understood them. And I consider myself, averagely technical, I would say. So imagine, I would imagine, and again, this is something I would do if I got to work with this company. I would imagine there's a lot of people that are not too technical about this, kind of like the average Joe type of person. So I actually, wrote down some of the jargons that I found to be a little bit too technical on the product page. 100 dB gain. Okay, I wonder how many people actually understand what it means. Cover us up. This is quite clear. And then it says powered by the patented enterprise-grade Cel-Fi IntelliBoost chipset. No idea what that means. Advanced configuration via mobile app. What does advanced configure? Like, what's the difference?
What kind of advanced configuration am I trying to do?
Yeah, exactly. Support 4G and 5G DSS for AT&T and Verizon, bands 212, 13, like super unclear. Upgrade to HD calls and blazing fast data rates. This could have been an insult to me, and I didn't even get it. The Go X is the only consumer grade, I'm not sure, signal booster capable of amplifying 5 DSS signals by 10 decibels. So I myself as well, but if my mom read something like this, she would be like, oh my God, I'm out. I don't get any of this. I get headache within like 10 seconds, right? So here's what I would do. I would actually do an exercise where every single line of the product page, what I would do is I would reread it, every single line, and then I would ask myself, from 1 to 10, how clear is this, right? I bet most of those lines on the product page would be like very low scoring, just because it's not that clear, right? Now, if you want to remove the bias of yourself completely, right, from the picture, you can ask the same question. You can show this product page to another person. Let's say, one of your friends or your mom, or your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, whatever, and ask the same question to them. Because again, if the hypothesis here is that a lot of their users are the average Joe, right? it's very likely that if your mom or your sister or your boyfriend don't understand it, the users that visit this page won't. Now, there is actually one more. If you want to go one step further and you say, you know what, I can't find somebody that would go through the page, and maybe you want to get a little bit more advanced, what you can do is you can use some type of like user testing techniques, or kind of like a clarity. There's a lot of clarity tools. I think one is called Usability Hub. And basically you just upload the product page to a bunch of to these platforms, and then you can ask feedback about clarity around the product page.
Awesome.
So these are the main two ones. I have one bonus one around Amazon, but again, we won't talk about this on the show. If you want to check it out, you need to subscribe to our newsletter.
Yeah, and Lorenzo, what I'm going to do is I also have an Amazon idea. So what we'll do is I'll talk to you about it in the show, but you'll edit it out if you want to include it as part of a bonus. But if it's, so I'll discuss it briefly, but you will edit it out. So I want people to know that there's even more content that we'll be covering. So a couple of things. The way Lorenzo and I, we have full-time jobs, and so we don't like spend weeks on these things or even days on these things. We also don't look at each other's notes. The idea is to have different approaches, but we're not trying to intentionally come up with just different ideas for the sake of different ideas. So you'll sometimes notice a lot of overlap. And just know that we didn't share notes. An overlap is a signal that we both triangulated towards the same set of observations, same set of problems. So I think you'll notice in today's episode, it'll feel like there's a lot of overlap. So that's good. I'm excited. That excites me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my concept. So the first, and actually I'm going to just set this up like this so Lorenzo can be seen clearly. So I want to kind of show you, I want to talk about how initial instincts can be pretty dangerous, and we have to be mindful about we have to be mindful about how we interpret them. So when I was studying the page, one of the first things I do, and really this is based on Lorenzo's kind of nudging, is really pay attention to product photos, because people will really focus in on them. So as I was kind of going through that, I looked at this image and I thought to myself, oh, wow, this is a really useful image. This image I thought was very confusing. There's no labeling on these elements. By the way, I hate the mouse over effect. I think it's actually quite distracting on desktop. Obviously, it's not for mobile. But if I'm a new visitor, this is just like random stuff that's being slapped on the screen. I didn't like it. I felt this was much clearer. It actually has the logos of my cell phone carrier, which is a very important point of consideration for me. And it also then shows how this is 63 decibels versus 100 decibels. I think there's opportunity here. So I had a whole bunch of ideas around this. My idea was there should be a CTA over here that says how this is possible or something, so we can explain. And then when I kind of went lower on the page, I realized that the same graphic is over here. And I immediately had to rework my concept. And this is a really important detail. Like, don't get so tied up into your idea that you're now blind to other opportunities, because you're like, well, I already spent 15 minutes exploring something, and that can actually lead to a really bad outcome. But this gave me a really important insight. And my insight was that so my insight over here is that we need to avoid the temptation of making a bunch of changes, and we need to actually understand the current consumption pattern on the page itself. So for example, I would go to management and I would see what kind of tracking is available. For example, if we found that a lot of users were scrolling to the section, slowing down here and absorbing this content, then taking this image and making it the first image it's not needed, because the problem's already solved. So my point is that the basic point is that I cannot make any recommendations. I cannot have any opinions until I actually understand the consumption pattern. So that was my first idea, is that don't jump for ideas and track existing user behavior. We may discover that some of the things that I am thinking as an outsider, oh, this is not clear, or this is not visible, might be perfectly visible and perfectly clear. And I want to kind of create content around it. Another thing that I thought was very interesting was Lorenzo pointed out the video. That video is actually very, very low on the page. I mean, ridiculously low on the page. And I found the video to be incredibly useful. But again, I have no evidence, right? So I would kind of look at tracking for this. I want to look at two things: how many people scroll down to this video, how many people watch the video, what is the conversion impact of people that watch the video. If the number of people that saw the video was, let's say, 45%, and the conversion impact of the video was, you know, 2x more than the page average, maybe that's a good enough discovery rate. Then maybe I don't have to worry about it. But if the view rate of the video was like 4% and the conversion impact was, 4 or 5x, then I know the video needs to be made more visible. So all I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult, it's irresponsible for me to kind of give recommendations that without actually making some assumptions about the consumption pattern. And I think that's the first thing the business should do, is they should actually have tracking in place so we can actually understand how people are behaving.
I want to add something about this video. I actually posted on LinkedIn about this the other day. The way I think about what surrounds a video on a product page is very, very similar. I'm going to make an analogy to the movie industry, okay? So in the movie industry, a movie trailer is an ad to the movie, right? The goal of the movie trailer is to push people to go to the movies, maybe few years ago, or to watch it on Netflix today, right? That's the job of the movie trailer. It's to sell the concept of going and watch the movie, right? The same should be applied for a video that is present on a product page. So for example, here, the trailer is that copy that says, watch the video tutorial, plus the title of the YouTube video, which is like Cel-Fi, go X by blah, blah, blah. And then the actual, thumbnail of the video, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that if this video is helping the conversion paths, so if this video is helping people convert, then what they should do is they should experiment with adding more persuasion, motivation, for more people to discover and click on that video, right? Because again, what surrounds the video and what sells the click on a video is super important.
That's right, 100%, 100%. I totally agree. So my second idea also is very relevant to what Lorenzo was saying. So we do think very much alike. So I also spent time looking at the questions that they posted on Amazon. There's a lot of content on Amazon. And I really like the questions people post because it gives me context about what type of buyer is actually buying this product. And to me, it feels like there are two types. And this is, I read some of the questions, but it's also logical. There are two types of buyers. And again, Lorenzo said the same thing. There are people who he talked about the jargon. I looked at it the same way. There are people who understand the technical details and those who don't. And I think if you think of it from those two groups, then I think there's an opportunity for us to personalize the sales pitch. So here's what I did. So on I'll just show you the mobile page. So on the mobile page, let's see, so here, they have all these features. So the opening is the intro, like, this part, and then they have this. I think this is a really important visual cue for me to know if my cell phone carrier is covered. If it's not, it's a closed deal anyway. But right after this, I think there's an opportunity for me to, instead of getting into more and more details, I want to actually now bifurcate my audience and allow them to self-select who they are. So I came up with a simple mockup, and I'll just zoom this in. And let's see if I can make this even bigger. I don't think I can. Okay. So essentially, can you see it, Lorenzo?
Yep.
So basically it says there's a lot to cover and we want to present information so it's most helpful to you. You are, after all, the one who will be using it every day. Click the button that best describes you. So there are two options here. I've never used a signal booster before. These are for people that are new to the category, and I think we need to treat them differently. They may be technically savvy, they may not be, but I think there's a huge amount of anxiety about using a new product category. And then the other one is I'm quite familiar with how these things work and the setup. So these are people that say, I'm a technical person, I know these things. I think for someone who clicks this, you can actually show the description the way you have it right now because it's fairly technical. But I think that if someone clicks on this, I think exactly to Lorenzo's point, we need to rewrite the entire description so it's more a narrative like you would sell to someone who's 60 years old and has never I think there's a huge opportunity there. It'll also give you really important data on the breakup of people that are coming to your product page, and you won't have to speculate on what is making sense to them and what isn't. So just to give you some context, to me, there were a lot of things that were quite confusing. So for example, one thing that confused me just is that over here, we say, which outdoor antenna should I purchase? I say, okay, well, this one, it clearly says bundled was as part of the base kit. Okay, great. Then it says, how many indoor antennas do I need? Wait, do I need an outdoor antenna and an indoor antenna? Why do I need an indoor antenna? So I was quite confused by this. Then over here, they say one antenna, two antenna. So I don't know how many I need. I have no idea. Okay, so it says, square footage of the office. Okay. But what they didn't explain over here was that this antenna is actually included with the purchase. And I think the way they explained it over here, they said bundle as part of base kit. By the
Super.
way, I don't even think this is clear language. They should have simply said included with purchase. They should also over here in parentheses said that already included with purchase, because I was unclear about this. But the bigger point is that from a technical perspective, if I'm unsavvy, and I'm very unsavvy, I don't know what outdoor and indoor antenna means. And so that's one example of something where I got totally confused. Another thing that they have that I think is also confusing is I really care, of course, about my cell phone carrier. So when I was reading this description, I have Verizon. So I have Verizon, so this checks out. And they say, well, if you have 5G or 5GE, but not 5G 5G plus or 5G UW or 5. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I looked at my phone. I literally looked at my phone.
How do I
On my
know
phone,
that?
I see two bands. That's all I'm seeing. So which one do I have? And this is a huge point of friction. And
Yeah.
so I think I cannot believe that Lorenzo and I are the only two non-technical people in the US, right? So clearly, I think this is a lost opportunity. And so my idea is to essentially personalize the sales page. If someone says that they have never done this before, it is I want to share something important as well. You'll notice my question did not say that I'm confused. So if I could have said over here, I need help. I'm not technically savvy, right? There's a problem with that. The problem with that is that very few people will admit that they're not technically savvy. You cannot frame the question in a way that makes them feel bad about themselves. But if you say, like, I've never, used a signal booster before, that's actually a proxy question to understand if they have anxiety without making them feel bad. So anyway, I just wanted to share that little tidbit as well. So anyway, that was my second idea. Any questions about this? Otherwise,
Oh, good. Very. I completely missed the FAQ section. Actually, I mean, I saw it, but I didn't dig deeper into the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to mention here also is that the idea of conversion optimization isn't only always to add new stuff. It's also about clarifying what's already there. I want to show you their second image. I think their second image is sorry, not their second image, but which image is it? This one. Oh, this image. This image is a conversion killer. I'll tell you why. Because over here, I actually have 5G. I'm not technical, but I know that I have a 5G service with my Verizon. So it says Verizon carrier. Okay, great. 5G service. It has a check mark, but also has an asterisk. And it says that unsure about compatibility, reach out to us. Why the hell? First of all, how do I reach out to you? No numbers given. Number two is, why would I call you? And what's confusing is that over here, they kind of show an asterisk, but actually they have FAQ content for it lower on the page, like I just showed you over here. So I think there's an opportunity here to prevent that confusion. Also, another thing I'll say is that in the review section, they have a select drop down, but you can't actually click on it. So for whatever reason is broken. All of these things can also be conversion blockers, right? So it's not always about adding better copy and coming up with this beautiful idea and whatever. It's also about just understanding like basic conversion blockers that might exist on the page. All right. So let's get to my third idea. So this I think is really, really important. So So the idea here is to think about the tips of the spear. I think what happens is that if the management's conclusion is that everything that's on this page or all 5 things on this page are equally important, we are screwed. You have to have the courage to say, no, I demand you to tell me what are the 2 most important things. And the reason why that's important is because, number one, it signals to us how clear management is about their marketing. And if they don't have clarity, then there's no optimization that can happen. But number two is it focuses my energy as well. Now I know these 2 things that I need to focus on versus here are 5 random things to focus on. Now, I have not spoken to management, so I don't really know what their core things is. But this is another great thing that we need to have as marketers is we need to be able to use common sense to make bets. And I came up with 2 bets. My first bet was that anyone who if I reverse engineer this and I ask myself, why would someone buy this? Well, they would buy this because they have a weak signal. Why does signal matter to them? Because their life is probably on their cell phone devices and their computers. Why does that matter? Because we get happiness. We consume videos through it. We do work through it. So what happens if you can't access it? Well, I might lose my job. I might be frustrated. I might not have happiness. So I'm trying to really get into the psychology of the buyer. So I think what we should do is we should start by agitating the problem and helping them visualize a better life, helping them see how life would be with like super fast connectivity. People are here because their indoor signal sucks. They have suffered through it. And this is another important thing. Nobody, because I know this for myself, when people have a signal issue, and this is true for when you have a crappy car, nobody goes driving one day and says, my car's pretty old. I'm just going to buy a new car tomorrow. It never happens that way. Once you recognize that you have a crappy car, it takes another 2 years before there is a final breaking point where you're like, you know what? I cannot move forward. My roommate, for him, his breaking point was that he was one day going to work and his car broke down at the end of the road. And he said he immediately called the car dealership and went and bought a new car. That was his breaking point. But it happened years after he realized that his car was a piece of junk,
Crazy.
right? I would speculate that a lot of people that are buying this product are only buying it because they've suffered a long time. So as a copywriter, this is gold for me because I can kind of help them remember about all the suffering that they've done, right? Um, but my core objective is to help this buyer feel the pain that they're feeling because that's fundamental. Let them know they're not alone. That's exactly what Lorenzo talked about with his Google Maps idea. So that's what I also say. Let them know they aren't alone. Many have suffered like them. Then I need to show how happy these people are after they bought our solution. So to me, this became my number one tip of the spear. The other one is this question: will this work in my current setup and situation? Again, Lorenzo talked about the exact same thing. So those are those. So that's my third idea. Any questions about this?
No, but I think it's interesting. It's an interesting, like, I still remember to this day, every single time I have internet problems or my phone is not working, my level of anger, almost like, oh, I have to go to like an anger management therapist or something. The level of anger that I have towards that is unbelievable. And I wonder if it's almost like, come on, we're in 2022, right? Like, having signal is like basic stuff. It's like, for the Western countries is having like running water, right?
Yes.
So I
Actually,
think
I'm okay with water being cut off for a couple of days.
then your wife is not gonna appreciate that your smell.
That's okay, but she'll appreciate the fact that I'm making money.
I see.
Yeah. No, you're right. Lorenzo, do you agree with this? What is your take? I mean, do you agree with this idea of like really focusing on the problem and helping them visualize? Maybe your approach is different. I'm sure.
I'm not gonna tell you if I agree or not. What I'm not gonna tell you is, to me, it's interesting to understand how long people have been suffering with this.
Yes.
Because to me, it's like, I want to know the timeline between feeling the problem of not having the connection and the purchase.
So that's a really good point. So actually this actually is in I want to dig in a little bit more here. So you're right. So Lorenzo's response was that we need to do more research to understand if this is a real problem. So this is one of the areas where our approaches are different. So my idea is that strip everything from the product page, rebuild the product page, only focus on these two ideas, these two themes. That's it. Okay. Because it is such a huge departure from the control, if you run this as an A/B test, you will within 2 weeks know if the idea sucks or has legs. Now, I'm not saying research doesn't matter. I'm saying that the choice is between spending 10 hours constructing a concept like this, setting it up as an A/B test in 2 weeks and having data. And I have a feeling that we will actually learn something pretty important by focusing on these two things. So just to give pushback to Lorenzo's idea, like, I think you're absolutely right. We don't have enough context, and I've talked about this as well. But I actually feel like I always pay attention to how I feel emotionally, and to me, I find it mathematically impossible that this would not be a pain point.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So I think the level of emotions here for this type of problem is huge. What I think would be super interesting is uncover what are the consequences that they had to go through,
right?
Because they don't have the network, right? Like,
right.
One of the questions I would want to ask is, what haven't you been able to do?
Exactly.
Because you don't have connection.
I 100% agree with you. So what I would say is that I would call that stacking. So I would say that start off by not doing any of that research. We can make some guesses, leaps of imagination, but I totally agree with you. Once I know this is working, Lorenzo, I will triple down on this, right? What I will do is when someone buys the product, I will immediately send them an email and I will say, listen, I want you to record a video right now of how you feel. And then I will send them another email after 5 weeks or 4 weeks and say, tell me about how your life was better. And I would do this with 50 people. And the product page would basically be a sequence of before, after stories, right? And it'll be I totally agree with you. And so the point here is that I would stack this one by one. First, have an idea, test it, see what the signal is telling us. Then add on to it, keep on adding on to it till you get to diminishing returns. Sometimes clients will say to me, biggest complaint that I get from clients is that, Rishi, we've done this experiment. We found this worked. This product page is done for, dude. There's nothing more to do here. How is it possible that we could get another 20% improvement? I'm like, dude, there's like 400% improvement waiting for us to discover. And just like mining for diamonds, it's going to get harder and harder to find those diamonds. But you don't like go to a diamond mine and find one piece of diamond and say, boss, I'm done, right? I mean, there's so much more. So to me, like, I do not care. I'm not interested in novelty. I just want to keep on doubling down till I get to a point where people say we don't care anymore. And they will at some point, but I think that's like years into the future.
Yeah, because I think I'm trying to think about, maybe this is a strong statement, but I think this product is a type of product where, and again, this is totally speculation, but it's a type of product where the average level of pain is super high versus, a lot of other products that, maybe, I don't know, like they're less problem focused type of products. So I'm thinking about some of the products that we reviewed, like the Dyson Hoover, right? I mean, yeah, I can't think of like major problem level, right? This is almost like, I would compare this, just to dramatize what I'm saying is, I would compare this to like life-threatening type of like problem almost. Obviously, it's not gonna be at the same level, but this is like a huge problem.
I would even do a campaign if I was this company. Once I know that, so this is really important. You really need to identify the tips of your spear. You cannot, like, if you don't identify that, when Apple figured out, their core selling angle of 1,000 songs in their pocket, you can build a whole $1 billion company around that idea. So I think it's very important to figure that out. But and I know instinctively that this is the selling angle. But my point is that if I can think of 100 different campaigns around this. One campaign would be, I would go to people that have a strong signal, great connectivity, and I would say, we have a 1 week challenge for you. For 1 week, we're going to put a device that's going to actually make your signal exactly what customers feel when they have bad sense. And I want you to deal with it. If you survive, I'll pay you $1,000. That's the game I'm creating. And I'd be interested in knowing people saying, I'm not interested, right? Because that is, again, a different way of agitating. The other thing I want to say is very interesting is that think about this. Everybody who's on this product page already has a cell phone carrier, right? Fair enough, right? So I have Verizon. Imagine if I have Verizon and where I live, I have a very bad Verizon signal. Two things can be true. Number one is that I haven't figured out a way to fire Verizon, because if I could have, I would have. So there's some frustration there because maybe all carriers have shitty signals. Number two is I'm actually very angry with Verizon because I have a crappy signal. So what if, now this is sneaky, but this is what I do for writing. I will actually write a story where I will make Verizon even bigger enemy. And I would say, you know what? Verizon doesn't care about you, right? Because, go on.
And shitting on phone companies is super easy, right? Like everybody has that, like one small story, like one little frustration about any phone carrier, right? So it's like we say in Italian is like shooting the ambulance. It's normal, right?
That's right. So all right. So I think this, Lorenzo, what I'm going to do actually is I'm actually going to leave my fourth idea. I'm not going to show it. I'll let you review it. If you think it's kind of different from what you had, maybe you can just include it as part of the bonus. If it's the same, because we oftentimes have the same ideas, you can skip it. But I think I'm pretty happy with this show. I think we've covered it's been actually quite interesting, because when I started working on this, my first instinct, actually the first note I made at the top of this was like, this page has a lot of great information. The design was good too. And actually, I think the design has changed since when I first looked at it, because when Luca told me about it, I think the design was different. So I was like, damn it, I'm not going to have any ideas. But then we just spent time on it, and you just start realizing like, oh, there's stuff here. It's really fascinating and exciting. And I hope that the listeners got that same.
I want to say one last thing. If you can share your screen again.
Of course.
I have a speculation to make, Rishi.
Yes.
If you go to the product page.
Sure.
So scroll the way up. So I'm going to make a speculation about the image, the first product image that they have right there. My speculation is that this is a forced choice. And what I mean by that is that my hypothesis is that I think they got a lot of questions about what's included in the package. And to lower that frequency of questions that they get from so many users, they decided to make a puzzle out of the first product image and add as many things as possible and include all the things that are included in the package.
I agree.
That's my speculation right there.
I agree. Well, excellent. Another good episode. See you guys soon.